What is the funniest thing you ever said to the doctor? I dislocated my elbow and was going to be given ketamine in order to knock me out while they popped the joint back into place. But I was already living my best life on morphine in the interim. I'd been chatting away to the student doctor in the A+E while she was doing some trig stuff, and she, being super professional, asked my consent to allow her to put my arm back into place. She unfortunately phrased it like this: "Would you be cool with me popping it in, as I've never done it before?" Well, drugged up me replied with, "That's what she said." Well, the doctor, 2 nurses, and I ended up literally crying with laughter because it was so stupid. They were having to compose themselves again and again before they were able to give me the ketamine injection to knock me out. I just remember how much it was hurting my arm every time I giggled. It was just stupid giddy humor. Came round to one of the nurses putting my arm into a cast, and I asked the doctor how she'd got on with resetting my arm. She said, "I'll always remember my first." And again, just the lot of us in the cubicle just bursting out laughing. Genuinely great care and hilarious times. It was more the doctor that made the funny comment. "Doctor, do you drink, smoke, sexually active?" Me: "No, no, no." Doctor: "Damn, what do you do for fun?" We both laughed. He'd seen me for years, by the way. Probably is more professional with newer patients. So, minor dog accident the night before Father's Day. One of our dogs bit the end of one of my toes off. Trip to lots of fun. Open fracture on second toe, etc. Fast forward 2 months and now I get to hang out with all the old people at the podiatrist's office. Having some complications related to the nail bed and a bone that won't mend. Little bit concerned that we may end up having to amputate the end of the toe back to the first joint. When he asks me how I feel about this, I told him I was concerned my wife would leave me because she's lactose intolerant. Not even a chuckle. I was at the dermatologist. He asked if he could have 3 interns sit in on the appointment. I said sure, and then got stripped down to my underwear. The doc and interns came in and he asked, "Are you comfortable?" I replied, "I'd be a lot more comfortable if all of you were in your underwear also." No one laughed. I was 12-ish, so my mom was with me, and the doctor was asking routine questions like, "Do you smoke? And do you drink?" Then he asked, "Do your parents abuse you?" right in front of my mom. She didn't, but that's an insane thing to ask when the potential abuser is in the room. So I looked at mom, then back at the doctor, and said, "I'm not allowed to talk about that." Boy, did my mom not think that was funny. Had my first baby 2 weeks ago. She is 2 months early, so they were trying to slow down the labor. At one point the nurse told me to get on my hands and knees and put my head down to try to relieve some of the pain. As I'm getting into position I say, "Man, this feels familiar." My husband behind me adds, "Looks pretty familiar too." Nurse started laughing and said, "I like you too." Later, when they started checking me by shoving what felt like their whole arm in me, I told them to at least buy me dinner first. Nurse brought some ice chips and started spoon feeding them to me. I asked if that was something she had to do because I have no problem feeding myself. She chuckled and said, "Well, since we've already been to third base together, it's the least I can do." I was 19 and having my tonsils and adenoids removed under general anesthesia. I'm slightly freaking out because I have never had major surgery before. So I'm in pre-op on the gurney in my paper gown, and the doc comes in and starts confirming my name and birth date etc. and then explains how the surgery will proceed. At the end of his spiel he asks if I have any questions. So my smart aleck, pointing to the 4th needle in my arm, asks, "Is all this really necessary for an ingrown toenail?" He looks over the top of his glasses at me and then starts flipping furiously through the papers on his clipboard. After a second I laughed and said, No, it's alright. I am having my tonsils removed. I'm just scared. And I'm trying to be funny." He put his hand on his chest, exhaled with relief, and then says, "You had me worried for a second there." I was in college and had an ovarian cyst burst, and I was in an insane amount of pain. My doctor was an older man and they were going through the whole "are you drinking, smoking, using drugs on birth control" spiel. And I went, yes, get this effing thing out of me please. And he asked what drugs I was using. And I said just marijuana edibles. He asked what edibles were, and I said effing weed. Brown is old man. I know you're trying your best, but I'm high and in pain. Please just stop. Being so old, apparently he was laughing so hard his nurse came in to ask what I said. I can't remember it to this day, but he was really nice the whole time I was there. I also needed my testicles scanned with an ultrasound. I asked, are they all girls or boys? I was 17. Doctor asked, do you drink or smoke? I said no. He said, why not? I said, good point lol. I was asking if you knew why it was bad for you. Oh. This was told to me. I don't remember it. When I got my wisdom teeth removed, I was put under for it. I usually have a reaction to the laughing gas and I threw up. Luckily for them, I followed the rules and fasted before. After I was done, I apparently told everyone in the room, it's all good guys, let's keep going. I was told they got a kick out of it. At the hospital, because of chest pain, first nurse says they'll do an ECG and probably give me pain relief while I wait to go through to see a doctor. All of a sudden I'm taken through quite fast. Another nurse comes up and says, hi, I'm Peter, I'm one of the nurses. We are a bit concerned about the ECG results, that's why you've come through to the other side. Despite the fact I was concerned I'd had a heart attack, I just said, the other side. You aren't sane, Peter, are you? He said, no, I left my wings at home. I had a cyst on my neck that was close enough to my lymph nodes to warrant worry about cancer. So I went to the end to get it checked out and they wanted to do an ultrasound. The drive had me take a look and was showing me how it was just a cyst. And I said to him, oh wow, those his little feet. No response. A little later he was going over how they would need to surgically remove everything so it wouldn't grow back. And I asked him, you mean I can't just take a melon baller to it when I get home? Still no response, but the guy decided to crack a joke back afterwards and said, if during the procedure you hear an "osh," just ignore it. I probably cut an artery, but I'll just cauterize it after the initial blood spray. I laughed really hard, but that bastard was stone-faced the whole time. I was at the chiropractor for a lower back issue. He was pushing on my leg/hip area and leaning across my body. When his face got close to mine, I whispered, I've never been touched like this by a man before. He immediately turned beet red and said, we need to focus if we are going to fix this. Okay, so after school I would catch up on TV laying long ways on the couch. Unknown to me, one day my sister visited with her boyfriend, both being homeless at the time. They had scabies, little almost invisible mites that burrow in your skin and looks like a rash. So it starts on my toes and gets really bad. We thought it was athlete's foot at first. Then it spread up my legs, eventually chest, backs and arms. Finally, after a few months of torture, my parents take me to the doctor, only because I refused to go back to school. Well, the doctor takes me aside privately and asked if I was sexually active and perhaps caught scabies like that. I look at him and say, doc, it started at my feet. Do I look like a foot effer to you? I ain't into that sh. Doc's jaw dropped, but I said it loud enough the nurse a few beds down was laughing her a off. My broken hand had been in a cast after surgery, and a few weeks after taking the cast off I had an appointment to see how my hand was doing. He wanted to see how my range of motion was and if I could make a fist. So I said, well, this is what happens when I try to make a fist, then lowered all my fingers into a fist except for the middle one, basically flipping him off. He laughed and I said, it still does the trick when someone cuts me off at least.